shut up the words and seal the book until the time of the end. Daniel 12:4. Coders. In the previous episode, we united the visions of Enoch and John and saw how, separated by more than 2 centuries, they described the same throne, the same judgment, and the same Son of Man. But today, we're going to delve into a prophecy that neither of them could complete. A message so precise that heaven itself ordered it to be sealed and hidden until the time of the end. Daniel, the prophet of the exile, receives a revelation that could have forever changed the way we understand the end. But before he can write it, a voice commands him, "Shut up the words and seal the book until the time of the end." What is written there, that neither Enoch could reveal nor John could include in Revelation, a map of exact dates, the names of those who would be saved, or warnings the world was not yet ready to hear. Coders. If Enoch and John gave us pieces of the puzzle, Daniel might have the missing piece. And if this sealed book is meant to be opened in our generation, the question is not what it contains, but if we are ready to read it. The vision and the command to seal coders. Imagine Daniel, an elderly man over 80 years old, living in Babylon under the reign of Cyrus or Darius, after having served such different monarchs as Nebuchadnezzar, Belshazzar, and Darius the Mede himself. His life had been a succession of kingdoms, intrigues, and visions that shaped the course of history. In chapter 12, the scene is not a simple dream. It is a projection to a time when the entire world is on the verge of its prophetic climax. Daniel sees Michael, the great prince, intervening in a time of distress, such as has never happened since the nations came into existence. He sees resurrections, some to eternal life, others to everlasting shame, and a final judgment that seems to close the entire human story. But just as the vision is about to reveal its most dangerous core, an angel interrupts with an order that changes everything. "But you, Daniel, shut up the words and seal the book until the time of the end." Daniel 12:4. In biblical and Jewish tradition, to seal means 2 things at once: to protect the content so it reaches the final recipient intact, to restrict access until the moment appointed by God. In Persian and Babylonian culture, royal seals were symbols of absolute authority. A sealed document could not be altered or opened without the sovereign's permission. The book of Daniel, sealed by divine order, would not be opened by any human power, only at the moment God himself designated. Extra-biblical connections. In Jewish apocalyptic literature of the intertestamental period, such as 4 Ezra or the Syriac apocalypse of Baruch, there are references to heavenly books, hidden until a righteous one of the end times could read them. These works, though not part of the biblical canon, reinforce the idea that divine revelation has levels of access, and that some mysteries were intentionally kept beyond the reach of past generations. At Qumran, among the Dead Sea Scrolls, texts were found that spoke of mysteries reserved for the end, and even used a coded writing system so that only the initiated could understand them. This suggests that sealing a text could mean not only keeping it physically stored, but also symbolically encoding it. And here, coders, comes the key question. If this sealed book of Daniel contains information that even later prophets, including John and Enoch, couldn't fully reveal, could it be the missing piece that connects all prophecies? A record that explains the numbers, the timelines, and the events with a clarity we have never seen before? Because if that's the case, we are not just talking about a book. We are talking about the master key that could unlock all the other visions. The parallel with the seals of Revelation coders. Let's leap forward more than 6 centuries in time. We leave behind Daniel, an old man in exile in Babylon, to find John, a prisoner on the island of Patmos at the height of the Roman Empire. In Revelation 5, John describes a scene of pure cosmic tension. A throne in heaven, a scroll in the right hand of the one seated, sealed with 7 seals. And I saw in the right hand of him who sat on the throne a book, written inside and on the back, sealed with 7 seals. An angel asks with a mighty voice, "Who is worthy to open the book and break its seals?" But no one, neither in heaven, nor on earth, nor under the earth, could open it or even look at it. John weeps, not out of mere curiosity, but because that book is the trigger of the end. And if no one opens it, history remains incomplete. The inevitable question, could this be the very same book Daniel received, but sealed until the time of the end? Daniel sees it closed and forbidden. John sees it closed but on the verge of being opened. Revelation 5-6. Unfolding of the end when the seals are finally broken, and each one unleashes a prophetic event. Curious historical note. In Jewish tradition, important legal documents, wills, contracts, inheritances, were sealed multiple times to ensure no one could alter them. The 7 seals of Revelation could be the ultimate representation of divine security. Not just one seal, but 7, as if it were a record so sacred that only one could access it. Extra-biblical connections. In the Syriac Apocalypse of Baruch, 1st century, there is mention of a book containing the entirety of the works of men and the secrets of the Most High, reserved for the righteous one of the end times. The description matches the scroll of Revelation with unsettling precision. At Qumran, the war scroll was found, containing instructions for the final battle written in symbolic code, as if anticipating that Revelation must be protected until the last generation. And here's what's unsettling for us coders. If Daniel saw the sealed contents, and John saw the moment when the seals would be broken, does this mean Revelation is, in part, the opening of Daniel's book? Could we, by crossing both visions, reconstruct at least part of that forbidden content? Because if that's the case, we might be closer than ever to seeing something that, for centuries, was deliberately kept out of human hands. Enoch and the heavenly books coders, before Daniel ever heard, sealed the book until the time of the end. There was another man who ascended beyond the heavens and saw forbidden archives. In the book of Enoch, chapters 47, 81, and 103, the patriarch describes how he was brought before the Ancient of Days and saw books written before him, where every human act was recorded with a precision impossible to alter. These were not ordinary scrolls. They were living records, written by heavenly scribes, angels specialized in documenting the history of the universe. Enoch 81, 1-2 says, "Behold, these heavenly tablets have been read before me, and everything that is written in them shall be fulfilled." But the most unsettling part is that Enoch admits not everything he saw could be revealed. "I have seen mysteries that I must not tell, for they have been sealed for the righteous at the appointed time." Enoch 103:2. The Great Connection. If Enoch saw sealed books, and Daniel received a sealed book, and John saw a sealed scroll, could it be that all three were looking at the same heavenly record, but at different stages of its custody? Striking parallels. Enoch, books written by heavenly scribes, with mysteries reserved for the appointed time. Daniel, books sealed until the time of the end. John, scroll sealed with 7 seals, opened only by the Lamb. In Jewish apocalyptic traditions, such as the Book of Jubilees or the Apocalypse of Abraham, the idea is repeated that there are divine archives traveling between heaven and earth, but whose access is restricted to specific messengers. Even in the Dead Sea Scrolls, there is mention of books of the mysteries of God that can't be interpreted by the sons of Belial, the wicked. In Ethiopian tradition, Enoch is believed to have been the first archivist of heaven, leaving partial copies of what he saw for future generations. Legend says those texts were hidden in the desert. and will only appear when the world is about to be judged. This idea is strikingly similar to Daniel's prophecies and to the act of opening the seals in Revelation. If what Enoch saw, what Daniel received, and what John witnessed are fragments of the same book, what kind of information could be so dangerous that it needed to be sealed for millennia? Exact dates of the end, the identity of the powers that would rule the world, or a plan so precise that, if revealed ahead of time, it would alter the course of history itself? One thing is certain: if those three fragments were ever united, we might be facing the greatest revelation ever given to humanity, the numerical key and the time of the encoders. In Daniel 12:7, the prophet hears a cryptic phrase: "It will be for a time, times, and half a time, and when the shattering of the power of the holy people comes to an end, all these things will be finished." This language is no accident. In biblical prophecy, a time is commonly interpreted as a prophetic year, 360 days, exactly the same figures that appear in Revelation 11, 12, and 13 to describe the length of the beast's reign, the testimony of the two witnesses, and the persecution of God's people. Perfect parallels. Daniel 12:7, time, times, and half a time. Revelation 12:14, the same period with the same words. Revelation 11:3, 1,260 days. Revelation 13:5, 42 months. John didn't invent this number. He inherited it from Daniel. And here's where the mystery deepens. If this number appears in Daniel's sealed book, what other numerical information could that manuscript contain? The connection with Enoch. Enoch also works with a prophetic count, but a longer one. The famous Apocalypse of Weeks, Enoch 91 and 93, where he divides all of history into 10 symbolic eras. First 7 weeks, human history up to the coming of the Anointed One. Weeks 8 and 9, judgments against oppressors and corrupt kingdoms. Week 10, final judgment and new creation. The pattern is identical, a coded calendar with precise phases leading to the end. Coincidence? Or, as some scholars suggest, were Daniel and Enoch consulting the same heavenly clock, but from different angles? Here's the uncomfortable hypothesis. If Daniel's sealed book contains the exact dates of the end, opening it before its time could alter the prophetic order, as humanity might try to rush or resist events, trigger apocalyptic hysteria, as has happened many times in history, expose the true protagonists of the final scenario before their appointed hour. That's why, in Revelation 5, only the Lamb is worthy to open the scroll. It's not that no one could physically do it. It's that no one should until the exact moment marked on that invisible clock. If there existed a manuscript that told you, with precision, the year, month, and day when everything will end, would you dare to read it, even knowing that doing so might accelerate the countdown? Theories about the book's contents coders. If the book Daniel sealed in chapter 12 is the same one John sees in Revelation 5, then its contents could be the most dangerous thing ever to pass through human hands. Throughout the centuries, theologians, mystics, and scholars have risked their reputations trying to guess what is hidden inside. Theological hypotheses, the full revelation of Christ. Some church fathers, like Irenaeus and Hippolytus of Rome, believed that the sealed book contained the complete revelation of Christ's work, from creation to the final consummation. Not a summary, but every detail of the divine plan, including events that even the apostles couldn't write down. The map of judgments. Others claim the book is a heavenly judicial record, listing the judgments to come, plagues, trumpets, bowls of wrath, but with mathematical precision about when and how they will occur. If true, opening it would be like unleashing God's final arsenal upon the world. The eternal list, inspired by Revelation 20 and Luke 10:20. Some believe the scroll contains the names of those who will receive eternal life and those destined for condemnation, a record that allows no appeals and that no one could alter. Apocalyptic hypotheses, heavenly codes. In Jewish mystical tradition, there are tales of books written in a language of fire that only angels can read. Some Kabbalists believe this scroll is written in that code, concealing formulas that uphold the very structure of the universe. Technological warnings. Bolder contemporary researchers have suggested that the book could contain warnings about dangerous human advancements, total annihilation weapons, irreversible genetic manipulation, or even uncontrollable artificial intelligence, knowledge that, if spread, could accelerate humanity's self-destruction. The script of the final war. According to this view, the book is a strategic manual for Armageddon, revealing the movements of the end-time powers, the identity of key leaders, and the exact unfolding of the last battle. Opinions from the ancient church. Fathers like Origen claimed the book would not be opened until the gospel had reached every corner of the earth. Jewish mystics believed its contents would only be revealed to the wise of Daniel 12:10, a small group living in the final generation. The Ethiopian tradition, the only one that preserved the Book of Enoch in full, holds that this scroll is part of a larger collection of heavenly archives, which also includes Enoch's forbidden visions, the Forbidden Connection coders. If Daniel, Enoch, and John saw fragments of the same message, we are faced with an uncomfortable truth. The final revelation was never contained in a single book, but scattered like pieces of a sacred puzzle. In Daniel 12, the prophet receives a clear command: seal the words until the time of the end. In Enoch, there are visions he cannot write because they belong to a future cycle. In Revelation, John hears the thunders speak, and a voice commands him, do not write what they have said. 3 moments, 3 messengers. 3 times heaven delivers a secret and then withdraws it from circulation. Who put those pieces together? In Jewish mystical tradition, there is mention of an archive of light, where all the prophets' visions are gathered, guarded by angels who answer only to the Most High. In early Christian circles, some claimed that the risen Jesus revealed to his disciples the sealed things, but that they were written in texts later lost or deliberately hidden. And who decided to separate them? Historical hypotheses, the Council of Laodicea, 4th century, and other canonization processes excluded texts that could have united these pieces, arguing they were not useful for the edification of the church or contained elements dangerous to the faith. Theological hypothesis: God himself allowed the pieces to remain separate so that only the last generation, the one living at the time of the end, could reassemble the complete message.